First and Now is brought to you by World Vision Canada, national charity partner of the BC Lions. Visit bclions.com/worldvision to become a supporter. It's Matt Baker, it's Nick Kowalski, a jam-packed episode today. We're going to recap the BC Lions draft activity. Got a couple of great interviews as we preview our defense. Ryan Phillips and Glen Young going to join us, but before we proceed further, it's been a few days, but our first chance to talk to you, our great fans and listeners, since the tragedy over the weekend in Vancouver, the Lapu parade, the attack, we're shocked and saddened at the BC Lions by Saturday evening's tragic events at those Lapu Day festivities. We join the entire community in grieving the victims, their families, and everybody impacted by this really unthinkable tragedy. There's no other way to describe it. And of course, our thoughts go out to the entire Filipino community everywhere, but especially in Greater Vancouver, of which there is a big one. And Nick, a very serious incident, no doubts, and there's some resources out there for anyone struggling.
Yeah, unthinkable, right? Like on Saturday night when you hear the news, it puts a knot in your stomach. And like you said, resources are available for those in need. So there's a VPD Victim Services Unit, and that's at 604-717-237. There's also a mental health support line that's available for all kinds of needs too, right? And that's just at 310-6789. No area code required. So you can obviously look these up as well. A lot of fundraisers available right now as well. So wishing all our best to the Filipino community as they overcome this tragedy.
Well said. Tough turn, but we're going to take it. As mentioned, we are on April the 30th, recording this on a Wednesday, one night after the CFL Draft. Hey, this time next week, we will be in Kamloops. You're heading up on Tuesday. I think I'm going to opt to head up on Wednesday. BC Lions, first-year BC Lions, and all the quarterbacks are on the field on Wednesday for the start of 3-day minicamp. Vets roll in on Saturday the 10th. But, it really feels like we've turned the corner now because we have 7 draft picks to break down. Tell you what, BC Lions may not have had a pick until 11th overall, no first-round pick. But they sure got a haul that they were hoping and anticipating. And let's just quickly go through them. Round 2, 11th overall. This is a future pick, as they say. Hayden Harris going to get an opportunity, defensive lineman out of Montana. He's going to get an opportunity with the Buffalo Bills, but this was the number 1 ranked player on the board. In fact, Ryan Rigmaiden, general manager, telling us, if this kid wasn't tied to the Buffalo Bills and we had the first overall pick, this is who we would have taken. That's no hyperbole. That's just the way it is. And we could tell just being around everyone last night that they're happy to get this guy.
Yeah, it's funny how it shakes out, and it obviously shook out in a positive way for our management. But it shows that the CFL Draft, it's no secret that it's hard to mock. Like there's so many variables, right? Like guys like Curtis Rourke and even Taylor Elgersma, right, with their NFL draft stock, and even a guy like Hayden Harris, like you mentioned. But it shows that, everything works out. And Ryan Rigman wasn't lying when they said that this is their 1-1 guy, and even more of their draft picks, they had them ranked very high as well too on their full leaderboard, never mind projecting for 3rd round, 4th round, and all that. So getting Hayden off the bat, you could tell in the war room when we were in there behind the scenes that they were jacked up, and even the next guy too, Jackson Finley, they were fired up about.
Yeah. Jackson Finley we'll talk about, but one last quick note on Hayden. Qualifies as a national. He's from just out of Seattle, Mill Creek, Washington. In fact, I've heard through the grapevine since announcing this pick, he actually went to high school at Lord Tweedsmuir in Cloverdale for a time, but mother was born in Vancouver, hence his Canadian national status. So Jackson Finley switching to round 2, 16th. So a trade with the Argos, move up from 19 to 16, wind up moving down in the 4th round as a result. Ryan Rigmaiden called this by far the best interview they've ever done. Combine interview. They were just mesmerized at just his presence and his professionalism. Western Ontario defensive back, a product of the Vancouver College Fighting Irish, a BC high school provincial champion in 2019. 41 games over 4 years at Western. 182 tackles, 25 pass breakups, 4 sacks, 8 interceptions, 1 defensive touchdown. This is a baller.
Yeah, and it's Western. Like, there's a good pipeline of Western players. Jamie Terrace, David Mackey, to name a few that have joined the BC Lions. And Western has that championship pedigree, that culture that they always speak of in the OUA. And yeah, to get a guy like Jackson Finley, a 4th generation CFL player too, which is pretty insane to hear.
Yeah.
It's a big gain, right? And this team is invested in the defensive back position. Patrice Rene wasn't drafted here, but he was a higher draft pick that got brought over as a national. The past few years, Christophe Beaulieu, Charlie Ringland, Adrian Green, even before he departed to Calgary. So this is a position that Ryan Rigmain and company, they're building up a little stable of defensive backs, Canadian defensive backs, and you love to see it because they got a lot of confidence too. I know a guy like Christophe. We're going to talk to Ryan Phillips about later, but he's poised for a breakout year. And if the upward trajectory for Jackson Finley continues, he's going to be right in that category too.
Yeah, and I mentioned the bloodlines. His grandfather was a BC Lion for over 100 games in the 60s, member of the 1964 Grey Cup champion. Greg was his grandfather. Brooks, his uncle, played in 1997. And actually got a text from former BC Lions radio man Scott Rintoul, who played at UBC and played with Brooks Finley. He's like, oh, my former teammate, that's his uncle. So talking about Jackson. So
yeah, next bloodline, yeah.
3 offensive linemen, Nikki. We go back-to-back. Round 4, Connor Klassen out of Regina. Round 5, Dre Dorian out of Kansas. I saw the Kansas Jayhawks posting about him this morning.
Yeah, shout out Kansas. We got some collaboration on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah, love it.
Love it. Love the blue Jayhawks colors always. And then the 3rd offensive lineman, we'll go back to round 6 for the linebacker Chase Tateran in a second. Alex Berwick, Western. Tough, nasty. These are some of the traits Ryan and Rob Ralph have described these offensive linemen. At least one of these guys they think can play center, and there's going to add some more intrigue to the battles in Kamloops.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a Canadian draft if you didn't shore up your offensive line too, right? That's always the pipeline for acquiring star offensive linemen, and hopefully, these 3 individuals can, carve their way out in the CFL. And then to wrap it up, Lucas Stoikis, a fullback who's a kick returner. I love that. He's kind of like that hybrid between a running back and a fullback, but listed as fullback, drafted in the 8th round, 67th overall to wrap up the draft for the Lions. And he's someone that let's throw his name in the pot for the kick returner, punt returner battle. It's going to be looming in training camp, right? See what he can do, and looking forward to seeing Luca out there too. Yep,
and then quickly reference it, round 6, pick 50, Chase Tateran, Alberta Golden Bear, 28 games, 139 total tackles, couple of pass breakups, 6 sacks. So this is that's a pick sort of designed to complement the Canadian linebackers who are already here. We've gone out and signed an Adam Auclair, brought back an Adam Konar, a couple of returnees there as well. So these guys are happy again. A lot of stories, a lot of bad publicity about what we didn't have going into this draft with losing a 1st-round pick, and everyone on the broadcast last night still harping on those salary cap violations, and I guess that's still a big part of the story. But we got Rourke and Betts back, and we're grateful for that. And despite those shortcomings, had a pretty good draft. And it didn't start there; it ended there. The global draft, a couple of Irish kickers who can place kick and punt. 2 members of the NFL's International Pathway Program, so they went to the NFL Combine this year. 2 ex-Gaelic football players, Ross Bulger and Mark McNamee, will be with us in Kamloops, provided they put pen to paper on a contract here in the next few days.
Yeah, I can if they do, I can already imagine them with Sean White in training camp. Sean White, 2 Irish guys, and a South African punter. That's a dynamic special teams duo. And
that's a band if I ever heard one, right?
I can't wait to see Sean's interactions with them, and I know we're going to get some great content with those guys too. So looking forward to it in Kamloops.
Very much so. And again, we'll be on the field Wednesday, May the 7th. BCLions.com has the entire training camp schedule, practice times.
Can't wait.
Everything.
I'm all jacked up.
Yeah. We're getting there. Again, May 1st in a matter of ours. Okay, again, we're going to preview the defense in just a few minutes. We're going to hear from a couple coaches, members of the coaching staff. One is someone you're all familiar with, Ryan Phillips. Going to get to know Glen Young as a pretty cool backstory, BC Lions linebackers coach. But we should say that there's some ticketing news to get excited about. First off, set your alarm. May 1st, Thursday, 10 a.m. If you're listening before then, single game tickets go on sale. Long time coming. It's always a fun day. You can become a season ticket holder anytime and get all the access you want. But single game tickets, those are going to be available Thursday, 10 a.m. Upper Bowl is open for concert kickoff against the Edmonton Elks. And pre-sales are open now as well for partners and VIPs and all that. But you're going to want to act quickly if you want to go to concert kickoff.
Yeah, we saw that last year. So you can, but the good news is, as of May 1st, you can buy whatever, whenever, and however. Well, you got to go to bclions.com to get these tickets. But yeah, we're ready to roll here. Love it. And
for those asking, no, we do not have an update on the opening act, the concert act. It's be somebody good, I suppose, but
yeah. It always is.
I get asked every day now. Are you in that boat too?
Not every day, but because all I do is watch hockey and when I go home after I leave the office, but close to that territory.
Yeah, I'm with you. Man, some interesting hockey results going on now. We'll get into that maybe later, but stick to bclions.com. Nick Hawka, our intern/video coordinator, has a few great features up. You can read about Ryzen John, SFU product coming home. A great write-up on Jeremiah Masoli, everything he's been through injury-wise and getting cut from teams. Keon Hatcher, talk about his recovery, getting ready for a full training camp. And I'll have a piece coming out probably later this week on Nathan and Curtis Rourke. Curtis, of course, San Francisco 49er and Saskatchewan Rough Rider, as we learned in the CFL Draft.
Yeah, he's an op now. He's a rider.
he's a spy, as they say. So good job, intern Nick and intern Noah, helping you guys out at the IYP tournament.
Yeah, so, behind the scenes, too, with photos and everything,
Yeah, it's a big help. So, BC Lions defense, we're going to talk about that now ahead of a couple of coaching interviews and our usual features, Go For It or Punt, and They Not Like Us. As of the 30th of April, we count 40 on defense. This is after the draft, assuming everyone is coming. Hayden Harris, we don't expect to see right away, so we should throw that out there for anyone wondering where he might fit in. But
his rights,
his right. Lions have his rights, but he's going to be getting a shot with the Buffalo Bills. So I'm intrigued by this mixture of guys who are coming back and some of these additions. We talked about Dwayne Hendricks being a free agent addition that maybe is flying under the radar to some. Matthew Betts, of course, back. Giuliano Falanico, Sione Tuhema, examples of guys who looking to take a step. How about a guy like Francis Bemi, Nathan Cherry, former Canadian draft picks who have missed time on the injured list? Plenty of guys looking to prove themselves at all positions.
Yeah, and from the top, a full 18 games of Matthew Betts, right in his prime, too. You're hoping that he gets back to that 2023 form, and then Sione on the edge, too. So those positions are pretty solidified, right? There's going to be a lot of newcomers. There's 20 defensive linemen, or 19 at least, are going to be coming to training camp. So there's going to be lots of battles there, but top heavy with Betts and Sione, and then the interior. This group is getting younger. Josh Banks and Pete Robertson are no longer here, so Christian Covington was obviously a guy that spent time in the interior. Thibaut Dubai is a guy that's a vet, but it's going to be a lot up for grabs, right? Jonah Tavai in year 2, another name that's coming back. Marcus Morris spent time here. So even a guy like Trey Crawford from Hamilton who's coming in. So a lot of guys are vying for positions, and while there are like the maybe surefire locks like Matthew Betts and Sione Tuhema, there's going to be a lot of question marks that have to get answered in training camp, and looking forward to see how that all shakes out.
Linebackers, here's a name to keep in mind in the middle. Mike Smith Jr. was here at the end of last year as part of the practice roster expansion. That's a guy they like. With an injury to Josh Woods, not quite recovered yet. Maybe that's a guy who has an inside track. Of course, we brought back Micah Alway, Americans, Devin Richardson. It's an example of a newcomer that's coming. Jeremy Lewis signed to the roster last week. These are guys who had good college careers, toiled around a couple of NFL minicamps. Where do they fit in on a CFL field? You know, that remains to be seen. That's why you do this. That's why you go to camp for 22 some odd days, right? And size is a factor here, and that's where you see in a guy like Mike Smith. But a lot of interesting puzzle pieces there.
Yeah, the big question I'm looking at for linebackers is who starts and where do they start, right? You even got like Josh Woods and Ben Haladic were the day one starters from last season, but then now Mike Alway and Adam Auclair are here, and they're going to want to have a say about getting playing time too, especially with, Mike Alway's the vet, been to BC, we've talked about all that, but Adam Auclair put up big numbers in Saskatchewan last year too. And even the depth role is very solidified in my opinion. Isaiah Messam is as good as a vet special teamer that as they come. Terrence Gagne, I thought, made tons of strides on special teams in his first year. Max Royer, a global talent too. So your globals are solidified. They're all back. So then you add Shea Startarin to this mix too and see how he fits in as maybe a potential teamer as well too. So there's going to be battles not only at the starter level, but even when it comes to special teams, right? You got to figure out who's going to be placed and where. And I think this is a deep position for the BC Lions.
Defensive backs, we know what guys like Gary Peters and Christophe Beaulieu and even Ronald Kent. Jalen Edwards-Cooper, another corner spot to keep an eye on. Boundary for Gary most likely, but Tyler Coyle, talking about guys who are around last year, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to push some of these other vets. And Deontay Williams, free agent addition, talking about guys that might fly under the radar. This was a player they were really happy to get. So very intrigued back there.
Yeah, I want to see where Williams fits in too, right? There is that vacated boundary halfback spot next to Gary Peters. Is that a place for Williams? And then where do these second-year guys fit in, right? Where do Ronald Kent Jr. and Jordan Perryman go? Patrice Rene and Charlie Ringland are also your Canadian depth. They're back here. Patrice Rene in a pinch, or he can even win that Sam spot again, right? So, but naturally, I think with the Sam, the spot that Emmanuel Rugamba and TJ Lee held for the most part last year, you kind of look for size there, right? And you mentioned Tyler Coyle. Tyler Coyle is 6'4", 209 pounds. So I think he's tailor-made for that spot in the CFL. But there's even the first years that were brought in. Miles Brooks is 6'2". Anthony Witherstone is 6'2", right? So there's a lot of size there. I think those guys are
size and length.
Those guys are strong candidates to play Sam or other even cornerback positions too, right? So Ryan Phillips definitely has his work cut out for him for how he's going to piece all these puzzle pieces together. But at the end of the day, we got Gary Peters figured out, and we'll figure out the rest, right? You just let Gary be Gary at that corner spot, and we'll figure the rest out.
Secondary coach, pass game coordinator Ryan Phillips to join us a bit later. It'll be great to get his insight on a lot of these roster spots and where the chess pieces on the board might find themselves once camp breaks on May the 31st after our second preseason game in Edmonton. All right, Glen Young, the definition of a coaching lifer, former NFL player, not just football, his athletic achievements. You're going to find out about it. The new Lions linebackers coach will join us on First and Now, presented by World Vision. All right, and we continue previewing the defense with someone who you can probably say he's a coaching lifer. Was in Hamilton last year, stops in Winnipeg, of course, with Buck Pierce, U.S. College, a former player in both the CFL and NFL. Glen Young coaching your BC Lions linebackers here in 2025. Welcome, sir. Good to see you.
Glad to be here, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, first off, just obviously, I just mentioned it. Obviously, the connection with Buck and with a few other guys on our staff for sure. But what led you here, and what excites you most about being here?
Well, it's the first time I've been to the West Coast in Canada. Like, I was in San Diego, and I was with the Raiders in L.A., so I'm used to the West Coast, but I haven't been back here since, that was the mid-'90s. So my whole track has been kind of Winnipeg and east. I went to Syracuse. Generally, the CFL has been there. Edmonton was the furthest I got, although we would travel here and back. But you know what? My wife absolutely loves it. She thinks it's just absolutely the most gorgeous landscape you could possibly see. Driving through the mountains, driving across the Midwest, kind of the whole thing was pretty cool. And, I don't know. BC's always had good teams. you know, and
Yeah.
I always like going to a place where there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of room for growth. I like bringing my twist to an environment. So this is kind of like one of those environments that I believe we got a lot of talented linebackers. And my challenge is to get them all to kind of like do the same thing together with their specific abilities. And then being with Buck, I mean, Buck's a great guy. He knows the game. He's been to 5 cups. He understands how to get home. And as well as I do, as well as Benny does, like there's a lot of guys on the staff that understand how to get to the final game. And I think that's why we're all here, because we got a talented group of guys, and looking forward to it.
Here for the common goal. Elaborate that. You drove here. We talked about this. You drove all the way here from your home in Orlando.
Yes.
You and your wife.
Yes.
How long did that take? Nick might be interested to know. You stopped in Nashville, you said, the first night.
Did.
Yes. What's it like driving from? You can't get southeast to northwest.
You know,
further
it's
than that.
corner to corner,
Yeah.
man. Like that's as far as you're probably going to go. When I was in Edmonton as a player, we drove from Edmonton to Pennsylvania to Myrtle Beach to Disney, spent time in Disney, went back to Myrtle Beach, back to Pennsylvania, and back to Edmonton. So that was like the longest kind of trek. So that was back 2003-ish, 4-ish. Yep. So for my wife and I do this solo, it was a little different. My motivating factor was always my girls. So for me to drive with them, it made it easier. So this time it was like I had to get my mind right. And but nonetheless, stopping in Nashville was great. Then we stopped in Omaha. We went to church. My wife watches a church on Sundays, believe it or not.
Okay.
And we were able to attend that church.
Oh, wow.
On a Sunday, Easter morning. And then from Easter morning, we went to Mount Rushmore and stayed there and saw that whole thing. And then thankfully, when we drove the next day, we stopped in Missoula because I didn't realize that stretch of mountains in the dark I would not have enjoyed getting to Coeur d'Alene.
Sure.
That would have been brutal.
Yeah.
So, but the trip, like it was just so different at each stage that I think that's what makes it interesting.
Mount Rushmore is a big. I've actually been there when I was like a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Not an infant. I've learned my language now, but that's an inside joke. But Glenn, you mentioned your experience throughout as a player, as a coach. You've played and coached in 3 championship games, right? San Diego, Edmonton, Winnipeg. What are kind of maybe your top memories from those games, and what are you taking from those championship games to bring that to BC and get them to that level?
Well, I think it's not just the game. I think it's the preparation to the game. It's watching the pros do what they do best to get to that point. And you see the sacrifice, you see the dedication, the commitment. You see that there's no give in at any point, whether you're hurt or not. And you see the willpower and the perseverance. All that leads to that game. I don't think the game specifically gives you an idea. I think what I love about the game itself is when you get there, it's a matter of, like, for example, I'll say 2019 in Winnipeg, coaching the entire front. You teach them stuff. For 2 years, I was teaching the entire front. And you just want to see them to do this a certain way. You want to see them to attack this a certain way. And the beauty of that game specifically, they all did it. Like it was poetry in motion. But it was years of trying to get them to understand how we attack this, how we do this technique, that technique, how to apply this. In that game, they did everything correctly, and that's why we dominated. And then we went over some specific things, knowing that game was our last game. Then you could kind of hone in on some little nuances that Hamilton, in that case, was doing that we could kind of focus on, and that really took them out of their rhythm. So that, to me, is what that game's all about. It's seeing the fruits of what you've taught, and that's what kind of keeps you coming back for more.
Yeah, 2019. That's the Winnipeg over Hamilton. Probably one of the most dominating defensive.
It was amazing. It was
Jefferson,
amazing.
Yeah.
Adam Big Hill game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Native of Scarborough, Ontario, correct? Grew up an Argos fan?
No.
did you? What was CFL in general? Is that a thing in your childhood?
No, it's funny. And the only reason I say that is because my whole life, believe it or not, I played soccer as a young man. Then I transitioned into track because my body changed. So I was a provincial champion discus thrower in Ontario. And that's what I did. And then my senior year, so that would have been grade 12 at Neil McNeil, that was the first time I ever played football because I just did it with my buddies. So then they folded the program. So for me, back then you go to 13th grade for like prep year for college. So and my coach said, hey, dude, you have a chance possibly to get a scholarship, but you're going to have to transfer because we're folding the program. So I ended up at St. Mike's downtown.
Okay, yeah.
And so from St. Mike's, I got looks from Syracuse and went down to Syracuse, and that's kind of how the ball got rolling. So I wasn't really into football, and perfectly honest with you. Now, the Raiders was my childhood team, but it wasn't like I was aspiring for it. And that's ironically, my rookie year was with the Raiders in Los Angeles, which was like really wild. Like Howie Long was still there. Al Davis still on the team. Art Shell was the head coach. Tim Brown was the wide receiver. I mean, Jeff Hostetler was the quarterback, So
Well, yeah.
it was fascinating to go into that world. And, the Raiders.
That's early 90s, right? So they would have been
93,
like,
93. So the mystique of the Raiders.
Before they moved back to Oakland, right?
Yes, that was the last time in LA, actually.
Yeah.
So that was pretty neat.
So, the mystique of the Raiders, expand on that.
That's what kind of like I was drawn to, because I'm that type of person. I like to stand alone and do my own thing.
Yeah.
So I don't want to I guess, be in a crowd that's similar. Like I like being that kind of and that's what the Raiders always pulled in, all these eclectic guys, right? From here and here, these just different type of dudes. And it was intimidating to get there, but when you get there, it's just, you realize it's just one big family. But to be in that organization, Al Davis was really, really, he was a good dude. He controlled everything, and people have a lot to say about him, but he was always kind enough to me to always speak to me before games, after games. He'd want my opinion on things, even though I was a young guy that had no idea what I was doing. But he was still cool like that.
If I can just interject quickly on
course,
so last year was in Las Vegas. Last couple of years did some trips to Las Vegas with my dad. Last year I decided to tour the stadium, and I'll admit, Coach, at first I was like, why'd they move them to Las Vegas? I mean, they should have been the second team in Los Angeles. There's more Raider fans there, right? But then once I saw what they have at that Allegiant Stadium, and I've told you this story, Nick, it's like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. They're making this theirs. This is their, and they're no doubt going to establish more fans in that area. They're still going to get fans going to those games from Southern California and even the Bay Area. But once I saw firsthand what they've done to that now, I'm like, if you're a Raider fan,
it's converted to Raiderville, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's what they do, right? Even when I was in LA, we were in El Segundo, just a little old middle school converted to a practice facility, right? That's all it was. But, they'd have everything blacked out. We went up to Oxnard for training camp, and we stayed at the Marriott, those little those townhouse type Marriotts. That's what it was. And all the fields were blacked out with black around the edges. You couldn't peek through the fence. And so everything was so mysterious. And, all that stuff is so cool, but I can only imagine Vegas is probably, it is Raiderville now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I was looking up your NFL stats when we were researching this prior. You have an interception with the San Diego Chargers. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember about the play? And do you remember the quarterback you picked off?
I will tell you there's a couple. Probably this one probably didn't count because it was preseason, but I actually picked off Steve Young.
Oh, wow.
On a pass to John Taylor. It was just a cover 2 play. I was out of the box, cover 2. Coach said, anytime number 2 goes out, you wheel. As soon as he went out, I wheeled. And I'm telling you, Steve Young threw that ball. If I did not catch it, probably would have knocked me out. Because by the time I turned, the ball was right in my face. So I caught it literally right here. And I said, whoa. And then I just grabbed it, snagged it, took off. And we were at home and the crowd went nuts. And another funny story is that game, I had a great game. It's probably the game that landed me on the team. Because I ended up being the Cadillac player of the game. And my wife was in the stands and she thought we were getting a Cadillac.
It's amazing. This Google,
that is it.
That's Floyd there.
That's it.
So this Google thing, it's here to stay, right? Look at that.
Look at it. That's it.
Credit
That's
to
unreal.
Getty Images.
We'll throw that in the video. And
That's amazing.
There's you cut this for the promo.
Dude, that's amazing.
Right now.
That you found that. That's unbelievable.
All right.
But that's it. Young to young, technically.
That's awesome.
That's it. Yeah, and this was at the old Jack Murphy Stadium.
Jack Murphy.
By the looks of it.
Love Jack Murphy. That was one great place to play.
I guess
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
No, we shared it with the Padres.
Oh, back in the day.
So then, the back then, and then even with the Raiders facility, we shared it with the
Athletics.
And then they always kept that stupid, during the season, if you went to LA or Oakland to play, they kept that field. So you had to actually play on that hard, it was
dirt.
nasty.
Yeah.
You'd slide on that, dude.
They kept the infield. The dirt was in there. Yeah.
It's like concrete. Yeah. Everyone hated going there, man. It was just the worst place to play. But I will tell you another great story. Going to Kansas City to play, that's wild. Because
Arrowhead.
The very first time you go, you don't expect what happens. So you're sitting there, national anthem's going off, right? At the very end, it's the home of the, you're just going, yeah. And the entire stadium goes, Chiefs. It's such a deadening sound that you would go, oh my gosh, we're in so much trouble today. because we are outnumbered.
We got to get that going in the CFL because in Winnipeg they do it for both the Jets and the Bombers. It's obviously not to that extent.
Yeah,
and
it's good, man. It's rattling for the opposing team. It's a rattling feeling when that many people are saying it at the same time.
It's like you're in our house now.
Yes, you're done. You're finished. You're not going home unless you're getting bloodied pretty good.
While we're on the topic, we will talk Lions linebackers here in a couple minutes, but this is a great story time with Glen Young. We got to make this a regular thing. But with the Chargers, Super Bowl 29, Chargers, speaking of games against the 49ers, you were there for that. What memories stick out from that experience specifically? I mean,
the opening play bomb, split cover 2. We're never able to get back in the game. That's all I remember because I'm like, man, initially it was celebrities. Wow, okay, look, Magic's here. All these things you kind of see, kind of in the scope of things. But when the game starts, it's a game. You forget about all that stuff. But then when your cover 2 gets split early and they just light you up from the beginning and our safeties weren't anywhere to be found, that's where it's like the biggest memory is like, you know what? Despite the loss, it was still something that, like, even if you look in the past, I forget which linebacker it was, but there was a guy that played, I think, 10, 12, 13 years and never made the playoffs once. I forget who that was, but it was, I think, an old Redskin guy.
Okay, yeah.
I forget his name. But anyway, when you hear that kind of thing and you're able to at least go to the Super Bowl and be behind the scenes with it, like, that's pretty special. You know, people don't understand how hard that is. They really don't get it.
Yeah.
So when people dog their team, it's almost unwarranted to me sometimes because you don't understand. It's a battle. You're not just trying to lose. It is a gift that you've done everything right up to that point to get into the playoffs. And that's all it takes. You just got to get there. Once you're in, you could be the last place team in the playoffs, but you can win the championship because you start to roll and that's all it takes. And then you start to believe in each other and then everything just takes off. And you're like, my gosh, this is unbelievable. And that for us was kind of like we had one of those seasons where I think we had our middle portion of that season where it's like, oh man, what are we going to do? You lose later, a team you shouldn't lose to. You know, one of those games. Yeah. It's like even with the Raiders. I remember we go into Cleveland. I think they were 0-9, 0-8. We get. I think we were like team they beat.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, man. How are we that team that loses to that team? You know, so sometimes you can't predict what's going to happen.
That's football, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why people don't understand. It's not like you try to do this stuff. Sometimes the ball bounces funny. Sometimes, someone makes a great play like out of nowhere. And you can't really explain how it even happened. You know, like the Franco Harris one. Remember that old
Immaculate Reception?
Yeah. I remember that. Like how could you draw that up ever? Never. Yeah. Right? So sometimes stuff like that just happens and you can tell that team was destined to win that game.
There is a quote about like you're talking kind of hinting about like luck is involved in sports in general and life, right? But do you believe that like there's a I can't know the quote off the top of my head, but it's about like preparation is when like talent or luck is when talent meets preparation. Do you believe in that? Like you can prepare yourself or?
I think the game is so unpredictable that's the luck part of it, right? It's the unpredictability of what's going to happen. You can prepare all you want, but you don't prepare how the ball bounces. You don't prepare how the weather affects. Like last year, Winnipeg beat Montreal with that whirlwind at the end. Remember that nonsense? Yeah. How do you predict that? You can't, right? So whether you call it luck or you call it destiny, I think sometimes to me it's more destiny than luck because I think there's just if you watch a season with any championship team, you can kind of see where it starts to go. I can see how they're going to win it. Right, and it's games out. It's not in the playoffs even. You can start to see, wow, the ball went that way for them. Like even Kansas City recently has done the same thing. You know, even last year when they won the Super Bowl, they looked terrible. But then all of a sudden, certain things happened each game that you could see they were going to pull the game out. You know, and then it's like it just kind of like progresses that way. And in every game, I don't know whether they build confidence or it's the destiny of what's going to happen.
Teams with championship pedigree, a lot of time they just find a way.
Honestly, they do, right? They do. That's why Winnipeg's been doing really well because they find a way. And that's, I think, the biggest part of when you come to a new team, you got to find the guys that are going to find a way, not necessarily the guys that are the best. I don't ever believe it's always the best guys, the best athletes. It's the guys that will find a way they can together, no matter of skill level. But because this game is won with great talent, middle level talent, and grinders. You know, a lot of grinders in the CFL. It's the only way you can win Grey Cups.
It's a good segue into the 2025 BC Lions. The linebacking core. I think the story about it right now is that it's not only you have guys with started potential, you have guys that have started for years, like not just 2, 3, 4, but like 5 guys in this linebacking core. So early indication of how training camp's going to shake out. Is this going to be a battle?
I don't know. It's going to be special. I know it's going to be a battle. I'm looking forward to it because that's the kind of environment I want. I want a bunch of guys that have experience that have no idea what I'm going to teach them. Like, I don't want them to be familiar with me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to bring a different element that not one of them has been coached, right? So there's not going to be a guy that will be in that room that'll understand a thing I'm going to do, right? My drills are going to be probably never been even thought about with them. The way I teach the game is differently. The way I'm going to teach them to attack the game is different. They're going to be really aggressive. They're going to be, so I've always tried to coach the way I played, and I understand how I was taught, and the things that I was taught made me a great player. So that's all I'm trying to do with these guys. But the talent level is phenomenal. You know, I think maybe, is there a little pressure? Possibly, but that's how I thrive. I love the pressure of it. I want to get the most out of each guy, and that's why I coach. It's not going to go in there and these are guys that have played, yeah, let's just rally together, guys, and get it done. No, I want to push them to see what I can get out of them more than they even thought was possible, even with a 8-year vet guy, right? I don't care if you played 8 years. There's always room to learn something new, right? I always say, bring your toolbox. I'm going to give you tools, extra tools to put in it so you can utilize what you need to utilize when you're on that football field.
Yeah, and it's decent mix of veterans and young guys as far as the linebackers. I mean, that's probably the same for a lot of teams you've been around, but how much does that excite you, having versatility there?
Well, I love that because you got veterans. A lot of the younger guys learn from the vets, right? They'll hear what I'm saying, but they won't be afraid to approach the vet to ask, what did he mean? They'll be more afraid to approach me because, I get real aggressive sometimes when I coach, and they might be intimidated to talk to me. But the reality is when you got those vets in the room with the young guys, and the vets are always great with the young guys because they were there one time, you understand it's important to give back, feedback, teach the younger guys. And I think the important is as well, when I teach a new technique, for example, or if I'm going to teach them a footwork thing, the vet should pick it up quicker so then they can watch how it should be done. Right? It's hard when nobody understands it and everybody can't get it. So now there's no living example to watch. Oh, okay, I see how he's doing that. That makes more sense to me, right? And that's how I kind of learned. I followed Junior Seau, right? So I'm sitting behind Junior Seau and watching how he plays. So now I'm learning from Junior more so than Dale Lindsay, who is my linebacker coach, although Dale instilled a lot of things I teach today, right? That's what's crazy. Junior taught me how to play, but Dale taught me how to coach. But at the time I was playing, I didn't understand really what he was saying.
Right.
But now I understand it because I'm coaching, and it made a lot of sense now than it did then. I had no idea what same foot, same shoulder meant. Now that's all I teach. Because you deliver the blow, same foot, same shoulder, or you take on a block, same foot, same arm, that's where your power is. If you're doing it opposite, you're done. You're finished. Likewise, if you're a linebacker coming out of your stance, most linebackers will stand straight up because they don't use their arms coming out of their stance. But you got to study it to figure that out. They just kind of stand up. As soon as they stand up, if the line's firing off, you're losing ground already, right? So you got to be able to match coming off. When the ball snaps, you got to be able to match a step so that you can gain ground to get to the line of scrimmage so that you can get the double teams off quicker. You can attack with more power, and you can get leverage a lot faster. So those are the kind of things and nuances that we'll be applying here with these guys. And the vets will pick it up quicker. But I will say this. Sometimes you make even good players look bad because it's like they almost look unathletic when I teach them certain things. Because you just try to coordinate something like their arms and legs together. Yeah. It's hysterical because the brain hasn't done it that way, so it doesn't get it. So you got these guys doing the same foot, same shoulder. They just look awkward, right? And that, to me, I just laugh at them. I do. I said, hey, I'm going to laugh because I can, right? You know what I mean? So that's kind of what the fun is of it all. I mean, you just get these guys ready, get them prepared, and then when it all comes together, you win the cup.
There you go. This has been fascinating. We look forward to, before long, we'll be in Kamloops. Nick will be filming.
I'm going to be hanging out with the linebackers. Yeah, I want to see this in action.
Yeah, we're going to hang out in your meetings at night, right? Yeah, this is good. Get us jacked up.
Yeah, come on in.
We're all jacked up. The whole team and the whole organization wins top to bottom. So that's Lions linebackers coach Glen Young, a former San Diego Charger, a former Los Angeles Raider, former discus champion in Ontario. See, you learn stuff new every day.
Not an Argos fan, yeah.
Not an Argos fan. That's good by us. So, Appreciate this, Coach.
Oh, it was a pleasure. I had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next guest is someone who needs no introduction, but we will do so anyway. Ryan Phillips here, year 6, 7 on the coaching staff. 6, technically?
Yeah, 6 technically. Yep.
And Nikki, this is rare. I mean, for a Lion lifer like yourself, maybe it's not, but you started on staff with Devon Claybrooks, stayed on through the entire Rick Campbell regime, and now you're with your former teammate Buck Pierce. Do you have to sort of pinch yourself? Like, do you ever think you and Buck would be coaching together?
Well, I mean, you never know, right? We kind of made transitions at different times, came in together, was at the same workout and everything, you know, when it came to getting signed by BC. You know, for us to now come together, you know, to try to build an organization that we came in with together is definitely huge. Obviously, I've been able to see him being able to make his transitions and take his steps as an offensive coordinator. Same thing for myself. So, you know, for us to come in together and then be at this point right now is definitely huge. Always respected him as a competitor, one as a teammate, but also as a competitor, us, you know, having our battles with Winnipeg in the last couple of years and things like that. So it's definitely, you know, monumental for us to be at this stage right now and try to, you know, get back to the promised land where, you know, we were and, you know, win some Grey Cups and so forth.
Yeah, get back to those glory days. Indeed, that's the common goal we're all chasing, everyone in this organization. Secondary coach, passing game coordinator, of course, the past few seasons is the defensive coordinator. What can you say about that process? I mean, was it a tough decision to stay on, or being with Benny? Does that make it an easier to transition back? What's the mindset there, RP?
Yeah, I mean, familiarity is always a good thing, right? You know, saying you want to know exactly, you know, what the lay of the land is going to be like, you know, what your role is going to be, and, you know, how you're going to be valued within that. And, you know, you're going from a defensive coordinator role and then going to a passing game coordinator role, you know, can have its variations, right? Where you can sometimes make the final decision. You can also, you know, saying go about structure and things, you know, based on how you like it or based on how it fits for the whole group. And you want to kind of, you know, make sure that structure stays the same in the sense of just being valued and making sure, you know, everybody has, you know, a rightful opinion, you know, and then actually be able to now, you know, see your stuff be applied so then that way guys can go out there and make plays. And that's mostly what it's about. So for me, the familiarity was great. You know, obviously I played for Benny for a long time, know Buck very well from that aspect, obviously know everybody in the front office from that point. Always a luxury to be able to stay close to home is always huge for me, in the sense of me having my 2 boys and things like that. So I wouldn't say the decision was hard. You know, you just want to make sure everything lines up so then that way you continuously progress in your career as well as trying to do what's best for the organization.
And I think it's pretty common knowledge that with a coaching staff in a sport like football, it's not just like one, like Mike Benavides is not running the defense. Like that's why we have personnel coaches, right? So the working relationship between you two guys, how is that going? And even for, you know, 2025, like into a new era, new personnel, like how's that been going so far now that you guys are back in office?
I think everything starts just with a common respect, right? I mean, you have a common respect based on the fact of, one, I was a player for him at first and, you know, had some of my better days, you know, and better years as a player, you know, with him. So I know what he brings to the table. I know the fire that he, you know, comes with, you know, the competitive spirit and things like that he wants, you know, the guys to play with and also just playing with an edge. You know, he wants guys to go out there, fly around, you know, make their presence known. And, you know, that's something that I want to embark to as well, right? You know, go out there and not be a counterpuncher all the time, kind of be the aggressor in that sense and trying to keep that mindset as best as possible. So, you know, those are things that you do from that point. And, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, stays at a high level and, you know, try to have that mindset still as a coach. So, you know, we definitely see eye to eye on those things, you know, value each other's opinion. But the main goal for us is just try to be the best defense that we can be, make sure we get Nathan involved as much as possible. And in that way, we can go out there and make plays ourselves.
Yeah, of course. Let's transition into defensive backs. Your specialty, boundary corner, Gary Peters. Like we don't like that's just Gary Peters. Let's let him do his thing, right? But a guy like Deontay Williams was brought into free agency. What did you like about him? And then do you guys have any early indications on, you know, how he's going to fit into this defense?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing for me is, you know, creating a mindset, right? You know, we want to be able to, you know, do things better than what we did always in years past, right? Every single year in the offseason, you're looking for ways to get better. For us, we want to be able to tackle better. We want to be more aggressive. We want to be more physical. He has some of the same attributes as GP as far as length, size, those things from that aspect, right? So, to be having have the capability of having 6-foot corners, 6'1" corners with a wingspan that's able to read routes and things like that and want to make plays, and then also be an asset towards the run game is huge. So I think he presents that dynamic. Everybody needs to be molded into what we do schematically, but I think sky's the limit for him, and he wants to be able to, have a coach have confidence in him to give him an opportunity. And I think right now he's in a perfect situation for that.
What about the second-year guys? Christophe Beaulieu at safety. Ronald Kent got some action at halfback down the stretch. Jordan Perryman's another guy I know the team's high on. What are you seeing from them in the offseason, and what's going to bring for them in camp?
You know what? It's time to take that veteran step. I think those guys are willing and ready. I think they approach this offseason differently too as well. Right after you play a couple games, you start knowing what your body needs to do and how you need to prepare yourself mentally, right? Camp is definitely can get, kind of gruesome and long at some points, but knowing how to now pace yourself through that so that way you're ready for the season. And then know how to take on a whole playbook. A playbook for 18 games can change depending on how your team game plans. So that's going to be huge for them. I think Christophe is in a prime opportunity to be one of the better players in the league. I think that he'll be able to take that valuable next step. He has, certain intangibles that a lot of guys don't have, right? You got length, you got speed, the willingness to tackle, close space. We're going to get ball skills up a little bit more. I'm going to mess with him about that just to make sure he's picking off a few more balls and things like that. But other than that, I think he's going to take that next added step as far as being vocal. He's back there playing free safety, things like that. You got to be the quarterback of a secondary. I think he wants to take that next added step, and I expect the best for him.
The Sam battle, Emmanuel Gumba, TJ Lee, even Patrice Rene he's back, but it's up for grabs, right? Is that how you guys are going into this camp?
Yeah. I mean, we want to play the best players. And even with the guys that you mentioned, we can say those guys are staples within the organization and what we've done in the past. But no matter what, we want to find the best 12. That's the only way that you stay ahead. That's the only way that you improve. So everybody has to go out there and compete. And it's an open book, as far as it goes. So, that nickel Sam position is going to be a more competitive battle. You might see a lot more rookies there, getting some rotation and reps there from that aspect. But the main thing for us is playing all 12. And even if that means, moving someone like Gary to Sam, which I know he'll have a fit by hearing this. But, saying at the end of the day, we just got to find the right pieces for the puzzle. And, we want to see guys go out there and make plays. And, if that puts him in position to make plays and he's one of the better playmakers in the league, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. And, that spot definitely is a key spot for any defense. It's one of the hardest spots to find good talent, and find longevity there. So, we definitely got to find somebody there to fulfill that role.
Gary will just be happy. I finally got him into the TSN video shoots this year after 10 years. So
thanks. I'll deal with that.
You can put him at Sam for 2 or 3 days and you can't get it all, right?
Yeah, no, not all at once. Not all at once.
Let's talk about youth. This draft room across the way last night was very happy to be able to move up to get a Jackson Finlay out of Western, has family ties to the BC Lions like we talked about. No doubt you've watched a bit of his film. What do you like, and how do you expect him to come in and compete?
Oh, man. I mean, he has a high ceiling, right? I mean, it's one thing to have things that you can't teach, right? Size, speed, willingness to tackle, willingness to be physical, ball tracking ability, range from that aspect. I mean, I always, get excited about a guy that's want to go pick the ball off, right? I mean, that's a staple for me. Ball skills is always a big deal. But the willingness to fit the alley, he's willing to fit the alley, come downhill, not afraid of contact. So no matter what, we know he's going to be an asset in the sense of teams alone, right? We got to have guys that play teams with a body type. Also now being able to compete at, whatever spot we decide to put him at. We know like I said, not, afraid to tackle, willingness to throw his body in there, but also being able to read the quarterback and go track the ball. I mean, we want to be able to make more plays. And at the end of the day, we got to have guys that are willing to go track the ball for a lot of things that the teams are doing, screen game, things like that, who can go fit it downhill, make a stop at 5 yards, where we can work with manageable situations. So I think he presents that dynamic. And I think that's why, he's, was the number one guy, for us, as far as DB-wise on our board. And, when we got the opportunity, we had to move up and go get him. I think it's a great find for us. I think he has a lot of football left in him from that aspect. And like I said, sky's the limit. And hopefully I can help mold him to the best player he can be.
Ryan Rigmaiden has talked about how he kind of wants to reinvent what we're doing up front on both sides of the ball. We know how important that is. We sign a Dwayne Hendricks. There's going to be a couple of intriguing rookies coming on the defensive line. Not necessarily your area anymore, but the whole unit working together helps each other. I mean, how does that make things easier for the DBs when those guys are doing their thing on the line?
Yeah, I mean, any DB, I tell you, nobody wants to cover forever. And also it's impossible, right? I mean, these guys are professional athletes, right? So, no matter how good or how great I might think I am, no one wants to cover, anybody from the past or even to the present, for 5, 6, 7 seconds. It's just not realistic, right? So you don't have to be a great dynamic receiver to run around for 6, 7 seconds, right? So, any way that you can affect the guy that's touching the ball every single play, that's what you want to do. And you got to have guys up front. It can't always be schematic sometimes. Some guys got to win. Guys got to win their one-on-one battles. This is football. So to have guys like Hendricks come in is going to be huge. I think he's a big asset. I think a lot of guards and centers in the league, don't want to deal with him in that aspect. So we got to make sure schematically we put him in position. We got some other guys that obviously are still here from that point. Obviously, Betts is Betts, Sione is Sione. So we got guys, from that aspect. And even like some other returners, I think have a lot. Covington, Tebow, those guys are in the building. They stayed in the offseason. They worked hard. They're presenting themselves with an opportunity and dynamic to make an impact to that extent. So I think the sky's the limit. And then for us, we got to make sure that we just see ball, go get ball. And when we play that type of defense, I think at that point, then it makes us one of the better units in the league.
Got to ask you before we let you go. Nate Burleson, he was talking about you at Super Bowl week. He said he would take you down on a one-on-one. You saw that, right?
Yeah, I saw that, man. Everybody got dreams, right? That's what I say. Everybody got dreams, and that's my boy, right? You talk about some people that have came from Seattle, same little league football teams and so forth. And, he went to the same high school as my son. He's an O'Day guy too as well. And, I respect him obviously, in his journey and his football and all that. But, some things are just not possible. What I'm saying? That's just what it is. And, we could always line it up. I'm always going to mess with him about that. We always, mess around about that all the time. And I see his brothers and stuff all the time because our kids play AAU basketball. So, it's always going to be a family ties. That's my boy. But I'm definitely going to win that battle for sure.
Are you surprised? Are you talking about like big dreams? Like he's really shooting up the ranks when it comes to broadcasting.
Siri doesn't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, we had
in case no one thought
little video
could hear
bomb
Ryan's watch there. Yeah,
I don't know if the mics will pick that up. These are good mics.
For sure.
But Nate is like he's calling Super Bowls. He has that Nickelodeon avenue that he's really tapped into. Like, did you ever see that coming, or did you guys talk about that?
You know what I will say about Nate has always been a guy that always has been versatile. And I'm saying versatile in the sense that he can move to any industry, and make himself presentable and dynamic. And I've seen him be in the clothing line industry.
Yeah.
I've seen him, obviously do the TV deal. You're going from Good Morning Football and all these things to that to all of a sudden now you're on Good Morning America and, all these other things from that point. So to see him like make that type of transition where it's not just based off of sports, I think is huge. So for someone that can go, and do anything, I think that he's always presented that dynamic. He's always made himself presentable in that sense, speaks well, and, like I said, crosses the T's and dots the I's. Yeah. And that's who he is. So I'm not surprised by his success, to be honest, because like I said, he's always been, well-rounded from that point, took care of himself, always been professional. And I think when you do that, you pave yourself an opportunity for great things.
Another Seattle family you're close to, the Lockett's, right? How weird is it going to be seeing Tyler in another jersey?
Tennessee.
What? It's already weird, right? Yeah. So as soon as he signed, my son's reposting it. I'm telling him congratulations and all those things, but it's definitely going to be weird, right? I mean, he stays outside of Dallas, a lot of times now. So, it's only like an hour and a half away. So it makes sense for him family-wise. So I get it. Seattle will always be second home for him regardless. He'll always come back home. He loves the Northwest, so it's great in that deal. But to see him in that is definitely going to be stank. And I'm going to tell him it's going to be stank. I get why they got him because of insurance policy for, a rookie quarterback. So I get that dynamic, but I'm going to hate him in that uniform for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's that's a Ring of Honor guy for the sure. Seahawks, right? He's been that good there. I mean, I know.
Consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 10, what was it, 10 plus years he was in Seattle too?
10 plus.
2015, something like that.
Yeah. So, a couple 1,000-yard seasons and things like that. So, he's basically second in every category, dang near behind Steve Largent and everything. Yeah. So he's definitely up there with the best of them.
I didn't want to bring this up, but, one franchise guys. I mean, there's footage of you in an Alouettes uniform out there somewhere.
Before,
so, I mean, I didn't want to bring it up, but this goes to show you,
don't.
no one stays home
Yeah. Everybody has to go through something a little bit sometimes.
Well, you got to live in Montreal for a few months.
That was okay, but the way things were going,
That's a trade-off, yeah.
Other than that, that was about it.
Now it's just cigars with Moj once a year. That's
for
it.
sure. That's it. I'll take it.
And winning, as TJ says, we always win there.
We do.
That's it.
We're pretty consistent at doing that, so I'll take that too.
Let's do it again. July 5th this year. A little quirk in the schedule this year.
I'll do a little 4th of July celebration then. To get that. Do it from the state side. So we'll make it work.
Absolutely. And a win makes the 5-hour and 50-minute flight home overnight all the more tolerable.
For sure.
Great to talk to you as always. Off season just like that. And we'll see you in Kamloops, if not before.
No, for sure. Definitely going to be a great year. Definitely looking forward to it. Great new faces, a great opportunity. I think, 2025 is definitely going to be something that's going to be memorable, but in a positive way. And, I think we're going to do whatever it takes to win. And I think that's what the expectation is in the building.
Hell yeah. Love to hear that.
All right, let's go. Ryan Phillips joining us on First and Now. Well, can talk ball with both of those guys all day long. We knew that about RP, and it's great to have Ryan back in. And I know a lot of talk in the off season about demotion and everything, and this guy's locked in. It's been evident ever since the defensive coaches have been in here preparing for camp. And Glen Young, wow, we almost need to do an overflow of Glen Young with the stuff we talked about after we stopped talking to him, if that makes sense.
I was just going to mention, we had pretty much a part 2 right after we hit. It's one of those where you get the best stuff after you stop recording. So whether it's caddying for Rory McIlroy.
That's right. Walking. So yeah, just in info there, one of his daughters is a golf instructor at one of the Nicholas courses in Orlando. And he likes to, he's the type of guy, he said it to us after, I don't just like to go watch, I like to go take part. So due to his family connections, he's been able to go walk around during the Arnold Palmer Invitational, it was at that course. And he talked about, essentially got to caddy for Rory McIlroy.
Yeah. The Heritage game in Edmonton back in 03 or 04, whenever that was. I was thinking about that game with Jose Theodore with the Toque. Yeah, so it's at that game. But he was between the glass, he said.
I got to go back and watch this game on YouTube again to see if I can see him between the benches. And, wasn't going to get into my love of the 49ers with him. But yeah, Super Bowl 29. He was a member of the San Diego Chargers, and we dug up an interception he had against the 49ers in another game, which was played in San Diego. And he's also into tropical fish.
Yeah, the list goes on.
He's the next time we walk into his office, he's probably going to have a fish tank in there. And he says there's a tropical fish store by BC Place that he goes to see when he's come here as a visiting coach before. And just a neat guy.
Yeah, pleasant surprise, and learning more and more about this new coaching staff as we get to build relationships with them.
All right, you got trivia for us this week?
Yeah, let's do a nice little simple one for the pod this week. So this isn't the question, but it'll help prepare the question. June 11th, 2022. What was that? What was that date?
Was that concert kickoff against the Elks?
You were correct. That was a 59-15 BC Lions win.
Okay.
Nathan Rourke's first start of the season. 26-29, 282, 3 touchdowns, right? A star was born, a superstar.
One Republic.
Yeah, a superstar was born, though. Some might say, some might not say. We'll leave it at that. But I want to ask you about James Butler, because he had a crazy stat line in that game, right? The 4 touchdowns is what stands out.
Yeah.
So James Butler, he became the 8th BC Lion to score 4 touchdowns in a game. Can you name me the other 7?
G-Roy Simon?
Correct. He was the last before James Butler to do it.
And what was the year G-Roy did that?
That was 04 against Hamilton.
Okay.
A lot of big names there. See, even
Corey Philpott.
That is a correct name. Corey Philpott did it September 16th, 1995 against Hamilton.
Okay. Anyone in between Philpott and G-Roy?
2 players, yeah.
Ooh.
Household names too in BC.
Alfred Jackson.
That is one, correct, against Montreal in 01.
Yep. And there's another one in between there.
Yeah.
Claremont.
Incorrect.
No, yeah, I knew I might be reaching there.
But it's a big name.
What was the year? Can you give me the year?
02 against Hamilton too. So Hamilton had a rough stretch against us.
Yeah. This had to have been a receiver.
Incorrect.
Incorrect. A running back.
Yeah, so that narrows it down quite a bit. You got two
Robert
guesses.
Drummond.
The other one.
Sean Millington.
Sean Millington,
Sorry,
correct.
Diesel. Sorry.
Then you got a couple, one more receiver in 90 or 88. And then
Okay.
one guy did it 3 times. Pretty crazy. 4 touchdown games.
What years? I don't want to make you to make this easy
80,
for him.
84 and 85. And then the other one was 81 and one was 1960. They're all household names too.
Three times. Was that Swervin' Mervin?
That was correct.
Okay, yeah.
Marvin Fernandez, he did it twice in one season.
That's right. Yes.
So James Butler, you gotta step your game up.
And
One
then-
4 touchdown game's not enough.
Yeah. 2 more. First 2 weeks. 1960, you said, is another
60, 81, and 88 are the 3 guys you're missing.
one? Okay. 60, 81.
One's a receiver, 2 are running backs.
John Henry White.
Incorrect.
Um,
I'm looking up my laptop here.
you're looking it up on your laptop.
A running back. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm this other one's a running back.
By Bailey.
Incorrect, but that's a good guess. He scored the first touchdown.
He scored the first touchdown.
I always like that trivia question.
Okay, hints. Speed it up a bit.
Well, his number's retired.
Jim Young.
Incorrect.
Willie Fleming.
Willie Fleming.
There you
yeah,
go.
That's the 1961. 81 is a really good running back too. Kind of forgot about running back.
Already guessed John Henry White.
Jim Young is not
Jim
the
Young,
answer.
Yeah, you got to give it to me.
Larry Key.
Oh, okay.
Larry
Yep.
Key did it. And then you got a receiver in the 88. Really generic name.
David Williams.
David Williams. Yeah, there you go.
I was thinking about that earlier.
That's a pretty prestigious list though, hey?
Yeah.
4 touchdowns in one game. Naturally, you think a running back would do it, but receivers to do it?
Remember, it's happened in the NFL. Sean Alexander did it with the Seahawks
Joe
one time.
Mixon recently.
Joe Mixon,
I think Joe Mixon had 5. Well, Kamara is the one on Christmas, right? I think it was 7.
Alvin
right?
Kamara, yeah.
That literally won fantasy leagues across the nation.
Yeah.
So,
Good question.
yeah,
All right.
thought, get a little hyped up for the home opener. Playing Edmonton again.
59-15 again.
Yeah.
A few superstars for the Lions maybe doing their thing. Yeah, let's go.
Keon Hatcher wearing 84 scored another touchdown in that game.
Yes.
A lot of funny memories from that game.
We're looking to make more of those. Okay, go for it or punt. Let's do it. What do you got? I'm with you on yours, by the way, here.
We're introducing hockey here. So my answer is, or my go for it is a lot to do with the Gabriel Landeskog goal on Saturday. But it wasn't just the goal. So were you watching this when it happened?
I
Matt?
was.
Did
Yep.
you see the TV cut to the crowd
Yep.
with the couple with the Landeskog jersey and the McKinnon jersey? This if you don't know what I'm talking about, Gabriel Landeskog scores his first goal in 3 years, and the TV cut. And this is always an interesting job. I like the behind the scenes of this already. You got a TV director and you got a TV switcher, and they're pretty much saying cut to or ready this camera, and then you go cut this camera. You've probably seen videos of that by now if you're on the internet, but just an A+ cut to the crowd where the Landeskog, the dude in the Landeskog jersey gives his girlfriend a kiss and the McKinnon jersey. Just a great shot. An honorable mention to this too, that Tom Wilson hit in Game 4 where they cut to the camera right above the penalty box.
Sunday night.
Right before he laid out Alex Carrier. That's an
huge.
A+ cut. So I'm going for these TV directors because they're really nailing it with these and the switchers too. They're nailing it with these cuts.
Yeah, Tom Wilson. That's a playoff type player right there.
Scrapping in the bench.
Oh God, yeah. That's good. You need edge. You need more edge in these series, and the fact that it's Montreal, the Bell Center, the atmosphere, the history, that just adds to that. So
he's probably building his Olympic case too. Not to get off topic here.
Okay, no, let's not go down this road. Let's not crown Olympic roster spots. 8 months ahead of time.
I'll advocate for Tom Wilson right now.
Yeah, maybe
need some grit. Maybe get Adam Lowry in there while we're at it too. But anyways,
you're just gonna end up. You should just photocopy the Four Nations roster. Why not?
Nah,
Stick with the winning formula.
Tom Wilson.
Okay.
Who's gonna fight the Chucks? Just kidding.
That would be outstanding. Yeah. All right. I'm doing part 2. Last episode I said egg bites for breakfast. Good, quick, easy, tasty. And we talked about how we were going to start making our own. Well, we did that this week. And other than just having to add a bit of your own seasoning, a little pepper, a little bit of salt, they were damn good. Put them in the baking tray, the eggs with the pepper and everything else, a little bit of bacon in there. Oh, homemade is the way to go. So I don't care if it's similar to last week's.
Evolution.
It's kind of different. So There you go.
We got to hit up Save on Foods to get like a Matt Baker's Egg Bite segment
Yes.
sponsored this year. So
Bring Daryl out of retirement,
Yeah.
film a segment with him. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm loving this progression.
There we go. I'll try to change it up next week.
Or give us an update.
Yeah. Punting.
You see Tyrese Halliburton's dad in Game 5 of the Pacers and Milwaukee
I did
Bucks?
not. You're going to have to fill me in.
Oh, come on, man. So I'm talking to his dad, not you. But so the Pacers eliminated the Bucks last night and Tuesday night, and this series has really been a war of words, right? I don't know if you saw the Damian Lillard and Halliburton stuff, but
Yeah, I saw a bit of that earlier.
I'm all for passionate parents and all that. Like, it makes sense that you want to support your kids, but there's a line. And after the Pacers won the series, it was a late overtime game winner. The crowd kind of stormed on, and Halliburton his dad goes right to Giannis and starts waving a towel in his face. And Giannis explained this after the Bucks actually posted kind of just like the full answer about it. And I always think Giannis is he's a very informative speaker, right? I like to hear what he has to say, and he was kind of just saying like, come on, man, like we just got eliminated, like go celebrate with. Like you can't. He went right to. There's video angles of it where there's a big drama yesterday, where he got right in Giannis's face after the game. And this is a player's dad, so I think it's kind of just an embarrassing look too.
Yeah, I got it open here now.
Not a good look, and Giannis addressed it, and yeah.
I guess basketball is just kind of tailor made for this because the way the courtside stuff is, and like the Knicks beat Detroit the other night, and you see Spike Lee hugging the players. It's like,
yeah.
Come on, like just.
But from it was just like and for all purposes, a classless move by a player's dad of all things to.
Yeah, that's Bush League.
Yeah. So, and they had to be separated too. Like Giannis put his hands on him after they reconvened after. So, just some good drama.
Yeah, they're holding them back here pretty good in this ESPN.com.
That was like the second confrontation, but immediately after he made a beeline to Giannis and was waving this towel in his face. It was just not a good look.
Yeah.
So
win with class, as they say. Punting myself. So you saw snippets of this after game 2 of the Kings Oilers. Connor McDavid, he's going to demand out of there. He deserves better. He's got to get out of there. Like, ever since the Oilers won that draft lottery 10 years ago, people have had this thing that Connor McDavid didn't want to go there and doesn't want to stay there. Well, anywhere else he goes, you don't get to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. It's a failure compared to Edmonton. So, and it's funny, those people have kind of gone quiet now that the Oilers have stormed back.
Yeah, hell of a game in Game 5 by Edmonton. I didn't see that coming.
Well, it could have been 6-7-1 if it wasn't for
they dominated.
Darcy Kemper.
Like LA probably been the better team all 4 first games, and that just came out of nowhere. So good on the Oilers. Like they might be back. They might be back.
Could be, and but yeah, like that's just a weird thing people have had with thinking like the Oilers. They hired McDavid's agent to be their team president. They hired his junior hockey coach. Why is he going to leave?
No, he seems, from an outsider's perspective, he seems very content there. So
yes.
Yeah, and cut that out.
Yeah. Anyway, they not like us, wrapping it up in style.
So since we are a podcast, I think we're obliged to talk about all the industry trend right now, right? And that is, you saw this, the 100 men versus a gorilla.
I saw this. Yes.
I am team gorilla because just simply for the fact that I guess it's circumstantial, but once, like, obviously it's going to start with one man on a gorilla, right? And the gorilla is just going to annihilate it. You think those other 99 men are going to witness a nasty thing happen to one guy? You think they're going to be about that lifestyle? Yeah. And they have to go fight the gorilla after? So, I mean, circumstantial.
Once you see one guy get ripped apart, maybe you should just retreat.
Yeah. Maybe you're not 100% bought in anymore. Yeah. So I'm team gorilla on this. And just for that reason solely, maybe if it's some kind of simulation where like the human brain didn't have any fear, then maybe, the 100 men would overcome it and swamp it. But yeah, I'm on the gorilla. Just use your mind for that one, right? Use a brain.
Yeah.
Literally. You want to run after that guy.
These internet trends, they just never fail to disappoint, I tell you.
Some really good memes about it too. I've been seeing, so.
Good way to pass the time.
Yeah.
All right, back to hockey. They not like us. The Vancouver Canucks, Nikki. Remember this time last year, sorry to remind you, they were on the verge of taking out Nashville. We were in Kamloops for that crazy Canucks-Oilers series. Just a crazy series. Everything that's happened since then, though, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Rick Tocchet this week is moving on. So I've heard reports. Everyone's been thinking Philadelphia, but I've heard reports of maybe Boston being involved.
Ooh, that's what your sources are saying?
That's John Shannon's my source on Donnie and Dolly. Yes,
Okay.
Very inside info. That's what we're hearing. They not like us. 50 plus years of disappointment, shenanigans, and they feel about as far away as from a Stanley Cup champion, maybe as much as they ever have over the course of the franchise history.
Yeah, we were
very, very, very hard to take.
We were joking last night, though, that at the draft in 2024, last year's draft in the boardroom just to the right of us here, we were watching Game 5 between Nashville and Vancouver, and then I said, oh yeah, and then ever since both teams happily went off into the sunset because it's not just Vancouver, but my Predators. Just
they signed Stamkos, Marchessault, who else?
That was their Oilers series. If the Oilers series is the high point for the Canucks, that
July 1st,
yeah, and then came crashing down. So my goal for it, I actually audibled out this last second, was going to be, so we went to Game 1 together. I think we talked about that in the podcast last year, Game 1 of Vancouver Nashville. That crowd pop for the Dakota Joshua goal in Game 1 when they made it 3-2, and I think it was 2 goals in 11 seconds it was.
Yep.
People are talking about Montreal right now and just how, I was listening to a podcast where somebody was saying the Canadiens crowd for Game 3 was loud. They've been to an LSU football game, and they said that Canadiens crowd tops it. So those Canadian crowds, they're roaring right now. I know the Winnipeg Whiteout is as elite as it gets, right, for sports crowds, but I got to fully experience that last year with Game 1 there.
Yeah, that was
in a negative way.
That was something else. I mean, that had been 9 years since the last playoff game in the city. So that you had that backdrop, and just the fact something about that Canuck team last year, they were so likable. You mentioned Dakota Joshua. You talk about playoff type player. Yeah. Your favorite teams, though, don't always love you back. And on that sad note, we'll bid you farewell, but we will be back next week. Another episode to come before we get to Kamloops, or maybe while we're in Kamloops.
TBD.
Yes, we'll get some. We're into the season. May 1st coming here in a matter of hours, like we said. And World Vision, bclions.com/World Vision to become a supporter. World Vision Canada, the title sponsor of First and Now. We'll talk to you from Kamloops.
Safe travels.
Be good out there. Drive safe.